Alright, I'm just going to get started now. So, what I've been doing is I've been rebuilding the game Critical Domain. If you look for it on IndieDB, you can find one of the early builds that I did on it a couple years ago. And I really wasn't very happy with that build just because it was incredibly inefficiently programmed and it actually had a lot of slowdown and things like that. And for a sprite driven program, that's kind of crazy to have, slowdown if I'm just running SDL. So let me open up my code here, save it as a new version for today. Today is the 23rd, I believe. 24th. So what I've been doing here is recoding things, and I need to actually go through and put a lot of comments in the code. But doing things like a better keyboard and gamepad handler, better array binding for the scan keys, and instead of loading up a ton of different image files at the beginning, I only want to really load up one single image file and then go from there and try to keep everything as subroutines and functions to try to basically speed up everything. I'm also going to be working on limiting the number of variables that I manipulate eventually. I'm going to start to consolidate it into variable handling systems. But today, I'm actually planning on making a couple of 3D models for some of the enemies. This one here is the player's ship, and this over here is the template for the texturing, which is not done yet, but it's getting there, so I don't really have to worry about that too much. So I'm going to start with a new startup file, which just gives me a cube in Blender. Pretty simple. And I want to look at some of the graphics that I plan to make adjustments for here. So one of the enemies that I wanted to redo is, let's do, where is it? I don't have it anymore, do I? I think I deleted it. Maybe? No, I didn't. I couldn't have deleted it. There it is. So this guy here, give me a moment for this to load up. Come on, you can do it. There we go. This guy here, I want to make a 3D version of. So what I'm going to do is, that's going to be more or less the sort of head-on view of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to design the character based off the image. I don't have a top-down view ever drawn of it, and I didn't do any animation frames for it. So instead of doing that, we're going to do all the animation and editing in Blender as a 3D object. This way I can put skeletal animation systems in it and actually come up with all my frames that way. If anybody's played like some of the old Nintendo games, or Super Nintendo games, such as Donkey Kong Country or Killer Instinct, you kind of get the idea of what I'm going after. I'm making the 3D models, very high detailed 3D models, and then turning those into sprites to actually load up through SDL in QB64. So first things first, I want to get a head-on view of this guy. I'm going to put it into orthographic mode so everything's flat. There's no depth in orthographic mode. And then, and close that thing on the side there, I'm going to go down and find, is it display? No. Background images, there we go. And I want to add the background image. Boss Tiles 001. And then I'm going to try to center it as best as I can. Get down, cat. No. Okay, 4.35. Oops. Ah, come on. I'm out of practice on this, but we'll get it. Boss tiles, boss tiles, boss tiles. It's still not very well centered, is it? Okay, 4.35. Okay, so we got like 4.32. That's pretty good. Okay, and then I'm going to center it vertically. That looks good. Okay, so next thing, go into edit mode. Put that in front so I can always see it, and drop its opacity to about there. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to cut this cube in half and remove this side of it. Same thing over here. Actually, I'm just going to subdivide the cube like that and remove all the rest of the faces of this cube. And then, yeah, I might as well just start with one variable and go from scratch there. Bring that down to the top of his head. And then we're going to start extruding it out. Pressing E to extrude and bring the new vertice down to where we really need it. And first thing I'm going to do is this little like helmet thing. Oh. First thing I need to do actually is I need to go into my modifiers and I want to do a mirror modification on the Y or on the X coordinate. So what's going to happen is once I do this, it's going to have a nice mirrored setup. And I also want to clip it so it doesn't go past the center line. Just like that. Okay, so now I'm going to extrude this out, and this is going to start off our pane for the for this helmet thing. I'm going to do it again. Bring it down a little bit and back. Since I don't have a side view, I kind of got to get creative with how this guy's actually going to, his anatomy is actually going to work. Okay, I'm going to utilize variable vertice smoothing here. I'm trying to make it more of a circle as I go. I'll worry about the rest of that later. I'm going to work on his face now. And I also want to do some back face culling so I don't see all this mess here. And bring his opacity back up to about there. There we go. So now let's also make sure that our faces are correct. A little bit of tweaking here on some of these vertexes. Now, in order to get this sort of rivet effect I've got going on here, yeah, see, I'm not exactly centered there, but that's okay. That'll be just fine. This thing's going to take a lot of weird texturing when I get done with it, that's for sure. How did I mess this up? Oh, that's how. Okay, I expanded it to actually encompass that a little bit more. All right, whatever. That's fine. I'll deal with it. I'll work with it. We'll do it. We'll do it live. All right, Cat, I hear you. Okay, we're filling up edge loops there. What I'm doing there is I'm subdividing the faces there so I have more detail later on, because after I'm going to do a lot of smoothing on this. Another extrusion. Just like that. Scale it. Another one. let's bring that out just a wee bit there. There we go. So we get that smooth look to it. And finally, what do we got here? Switch back to line edit. Oh, see, I already messed up one there. So I need to, oops, put another one right there so we keep this guy square. The idea is to keep as many quads as possible, four-sided polygons, and not to have too many three-siders, because three-siders don't, when you go in to do your animation sketch rigs, three-sided boxes can't deform the way that a four-sided square poly can. If you have too many tries, what you'll end up is an area in the animation rig that just doesn't move or doesn't deform or scale at all. And that's a bad thing. Okay, so the next part. Is to fill in this part. Or at least try to. And also up here. Because he's going to have like a brow over his eye. That means I can also draw these up. Actually make it more circular. Damn it. Okay. There we go. Also, that means I probably want to kill these guys out. Bring this up like that. Let's see what we're looking at here. Yeah. Okay. So I want him to have like a sort of furrowed-looking brow, which means this guy is going to come out like that. A lot of fine tuning on this as I go. But it'll save a lot of time on that later. Actually, it looks like we're coming up with getting somewhere with this now. So we're going to start there, and we're going to do like a brain case sort of thing. And I don't know how I'm going to do the brain case quite yet. I might have to do that part as like a transparency maybe. Working with those kind of shaders, I'm still not fully well versed in Blender on how to do that. I might actually have to make this guy using several different models in that case. But as long as it looks good in the game, I mean, it doesn't have to be super detailed, because remember, you're going to be looking at it from top down as a 64 by 64. Actually, this guy's going to be 128 by 128 pixels. He's twice as, or 4 times as big as the enemy, as the player's ship. Man, I fucked that up, didn't I? Shit. Alright, let's see here. There we go. Let's get this right. Recalculate, please. What? Oh, that's not good. It recalculated that one. Okay. Recalculate all of them. Thank you. So it still really doesn't look like too much is happening with it, but it's getting there. It's going to get there. I can promise you that. Oh, what did I do here? Oh boy. Okay, turn off clipping and bring this guy out a little bit. Like that. That's the sort of the problem with clipping. Once something hits that center line, you're not pulling it back out until you actually notice you screwed up. So I'm going to look for that right now. Make sure that I didn't screw up. I came close on that bottom there, didn't I? Next. Before I go too far with this, I want to get the sort of rivet effect going on the original design. And to accomplish that, I'm going to use basically just the extrude tool. Like everything else I do in this, I use the extrude tool a lot. Select faces, E, scale it down. No, not like that. Clipping off, E, scale it down, and E, and bring it out like that. And repeat for the entire model, or the entire face of it. I'm not going completely canon with the original model, but after we get the basic idea of it, we can kind of do what we want. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get them all to a relatively similar height, and I'm going to select all the faces later and even them up. And I'm actually going to put a matte cap on here so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. There we go. Something like that. Now I'm going to say scale to the y-axis is 0. So they're all the same. They will all stick out now exactly the same amount. And this gets really, really boring really fast doing this. So I'm going to save that for now because I'm probably going to actually do another one of these. But call it Spider Boss 1 and save it. And let's move on to something a little bit more interesting. And actually a little bit easier if I want to do speed modeling. That is probably one of the most complex monsters that I have in the game. So maybe I want to do this guy here with the yellow arms a bit. Let's see what I can do with him. And this is actually the sprite sheet for the game. You can see my little explosion graphics and power-up graphics. These here are probably going to be defunct on the top row of these yellow boxes. We're switching over to a simple 3-resource system, red, green, and blue colors, and then there's money, random, and instant power-ups. And so a lot of this stuff here is from the older version of Critical Domain. I'm going to still try to... I keep them around just because I'm still going to try to implement a lot of these sprites into something. But a lot of them are just not going to be around anymore. Specifically stuff like on the left-hand side here, you have all these different... These used to be all the power-ups you could have. You could have 10 different power-ups, and they cost different amounts of the resources, and it used to have 6 different resources in the game, being science, medicine, crew members, food, raw materials, and hydrogen. But I am consolidating that down into two things, which would be your raw materials, your science, and hydrogen. Or yeah, basically raw materials, science, and fuel, more or less. So simplify things a lot that way. Let's see, is this thing still going? Yep, this thing's still going. Awesome. Next step. So, yeah, actually, maybe I'll do Space Pirates, because that's a top-down. The spider boss thing was kind of just like a turd I threw together just to have a placeholder for another enemy, so that might not even end up in there. Some of these insectoid ones, they'd be pretty easy to do. Yeah, let's do him. Let's do the either the Connectoid or the... Now I'll do the Connectoid, because that's a real simple one to do. So this I want a top-down view for. And T... By the way, to do that, I'm hitting T, transform, for T, for tools, and N is all the other stuff on the other side. I don't know what N stands for, but this is all like the manipulations of the world and stuff like that. So let's put a background image. Okay, graphics, Connectoid, we want him. And we want this Connectoid to be up front. And RSA 0.95. Oh, damn, that's pretty good. All right. Bring the opacity down. And again, we're going to subdivide. We're going to do a slice down the middle. Put a mirror modifier in. Turn clipping on. Since we're doing faces on this guy, we're going to do it like that. Do another subdivider here. And I also noticed that I got like these, there's my opacity, there it is. I got these little lines here and here. So what I want to do is, sort of, I don't know what I want to do with that yet. Maybe I'll do this. There we go. Okay, next. Make a lot of subdivisions vertically on it. And open this up here in the center. And we're going to fill her in. Okay, subdivide, D, no. I forget the subdivide thing. One, two, three, four, five, we just need 3. There we go. Since we don't have to worry too much about animation here, I can get away with putting a try there. It's not going to hurt anything. That doesn't look too bad at all. Okay, I'm happy with that. Okay, I only want to see that at the top axis now, so I got that set up. Okay. So box that in for the leg there. There we go. That's what I want. F and then subdivide. Fill her in. Ooh, not that way. There we go. Fill that in. So we want to make it basically solidify everything. And same thing here. There we go. Now I can remove these extraneous faces. Now keep in mind this is our very basic version of this guy. But I'm going to make it so that it's going to have more details, like the lasers and weaponry and stuff like that. I do want to add that on later on. But for now, okay. So that goes over 2. So it's going to be over here somewhere. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I fucked something up. I fucked something up bad. Okay. What did I do here? So give it a little bit more 3D-ishness. Stuff that was never really in the original model, but when I put animations on it, it should look really cool. Okay, then we hit space, bridge, bridge edge loops, and that just does that real quick for us. There we go. Okay, and then finally this little like tail section, mine layer sort of thing that I came up with. One, two, just like that. Round that off, make it a little softer. Just like that. I'm listening to something in the background, so I might be giggling here and there for no reason. Okay. Subdivide it up a couple good times so I have some. Ooh, see, that's where this gets screwed up. And now is now a quad. That's pretty much that's the model for the connectoid. Pretty much. No. Okay, so that's our connectoid. Still got a lot more to do on that, but you know, I got the basic shape done. And I'm just going to seal up the front and underside. And then we'll show you how we do some implementation, maybe. Go into the code next. fill in the bottom section. Doink, doink, fill. There we go. That's done. Okay, now we do some decoration stuff. I'm going to change this to individual origins. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I want to do the individual origins. Now we have something that's more in line with our standard critical domain ships here. From the ones that, if you look on my channel, I have videos for designing a lot of different ships. And one of my big design features is these ribs. I like doing these ribs for whatever reason. And they kind of give me the idea of like shields. Like that's how your shields are generated, with these little ribs. There's our new connectoid. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, those are thin. I'll just leave it like that. Scale them down a bit. There we go. Bring them forward a bit. So it's got like that insect look to it. Yeah. So that is how we model out a couple of enemies. Okay, so as for now, we want to sit there and we want to sit here and import it into the actual sprite sheet. And we'll make it actually work with our sprite sheet here. As you can see, what I did with okay, so the original player ship was this little blue guy on the left here. And I made a simple banking graphic that I could flip either way when he turned left or right. Didn't really turn out the way I wanted it to. So what I did is I made a full-on 3D graphic of the ship. It's not textured yet. These are just placeholders, and did the banking based on that. And he's 64 by 64 dots. Our little connectoid guy, I believe, is much smaller than that, 16 by or 32 by 32. So in Blender, I'm going to go to our camera view, and I'm going to change the camera to render in 32 by 32 and at 100%. And we're going to select the camera. Come on. Select just the camera. And we're going to change everything here to 0 as location 0. And that's Y location 0. And Z5 is good. And this we're going to change to 0. All 3 zeros. So now we're looking dead down on the object. In fact, I want to lower this just a little bit so that he kind of fills in the area, and move him to the center of the, as central as I can get him. .5 is probably pretty good. So now when I rotate him, in fact, he is kind of up there, so I'm going to go tab, select everything, and bring him down to about there, right on the middle. So his weight's like right on the middle of it. Go back into our camera. And make sure he stays in our bounding box. In fact, I can get away with coming in a little bit closer now. Done. Okay. Save this before we actually do our sprite generation, and we're doing just placeholders. I'll do the UV mapping and everything and just regenerate the sprites later. Right now, I just want to get the game working. So there's our graphic. Kind of looks like crap, doesn't it? Because we forgot a couple of things. We have to turn anti-aliasing off. Now he looks a lot better, but it's still really small, you know. Let's make him a little bit bigger there. That's good. I like that. So now we actually have this one done. I also want to make sure that I go to my world settings, and I want to change my, wait, hold on a minute, is it in here? PNG compression, I don't care about compression. Anti-aliasing, shading. We don't want sky, we want alpha to be transparent. There it is, okay. Now we have a transparent alpha around it, and we can save this guy. And QB64. Actually, I want to favorite this. Hold on. How do I favorite this guy? I remember I can save this one into, yeah, bookmark. Add a bookmark. Save it into gfx.c or cd.gfx, gfx.cd, and we're going to call this guy con underscore no bank. Now, change his y to 22. Run that. Save the next image. Call this con. He is going to his left, but it's our right, so I'm going to call it right bank 22 for 22 degrees. Undo, undo. And then we're going to rotate him again, 45. Render it. Image, save as image. And call that right bank 45. Okay, next one. I want to keep doing rolls, so 45, 20, between 45 and 90 is going to be another 22 ahead. So like, we'll say 60, 67, 66. R, Y, 66, enter. There we go. Render. Because what I'm going to do is these guys are just going to kind of spin as they come in. Image, save as image. Right bank 66. And then RY 90. Oops, I keep doing that. Okay, I guess that'll work. Save as image. Right bank 90. Okay, so next I just want to keep the right bank until I roll all the way upside down. So 90 plus another 22, we'll just say that's 112. We'll say 114. Let's keep hitting my mic. Hold on. Render. See, that's not good. Now I'm getting all this black here. So, and that looks like pure black too. So I'm just going to stick with the one-way turn right now. And then, so I'm just going to go up to 45 for now. I'm only going to have him like bank and move more or less like the player ship does. Except I want to have him cut more to the 60 degrees. Okay, RY negative 22. Render that sucker. 5, render it. And then last one, RY negative 66. Render it. And see, I'm getting a lot of black there. I don't like that. So we'll have to do something with that. Okay, so now we got our images done. I can go into, I actually do this in Paint because it's easy. Since we have all these nice little graphics now, I'm going to open up my effects map here, which has basically, it's our master sprite sheet. And find a nice spot to start working on this guy. In fact, what I want to do is get these guys here. In fact, yeah, I'm going to actually clear all this stuff here. All this stuff below here. And I need to fill solid color. There we go. Okay, now I can go and select some of these points here, these pips. And fill it back in. These are just indexing pips, so I know, how many dots I have, or how many. It's so I can line the pixels up to a grid, because a lot of these effects are pulled down mathematically. It just makes it a heck of a lot easier to reference them. Some of the pips have already been cut off in half, but that's okay. They're just a guide, like a piece of graph paper more than anything else. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to paste from a file. Start with Bank 66. Actually, no. We're going to start with flat on. Ah, come on. No bank. Okay, and then he's on point. He's actually perfect. Okay, great. What I'm using is the pips here now to actually line up my grid. I think I'm only actually going to use half of this. Okay, so we got no bank, right bank 122, which I just put in there. 45. Right bank 45. So now you can actually kind of see what I'm doing here. Another paste. Okay, 45, 66 degrees. And again, trying to stay within that 64-bit dot square. Keep everything lined up. So 5 pips, 5 pips, 5 pips, 5 pips, and then we have our 90 degree. And instead of for this enemy, what instead I'm going to probably do is I'm probably going to just reverse these for the other side. So when it turns to the other side, it just reverses it. It might be a little bit simpler than trying to get it bang on. Okay, so we save this guy. And now there's going to be pips in here. That's okay, because it's still just test graphics. These are not finalized graphics, but I have cleared them out from the actual game. So over to the code. Here we go. Now it's when it gets interesting. So that image is already loaded in, and I'll show you what I have so far. I have the star field. I have the player ship movement, and I have the sort of afterburner effect going on. And I have it so that the player ship kind of tilts depending on how much oomph you're giving the fuel. And so enemies are going to operate more or less the same way. So this is going to be a vertical shooter. In fact, that's the name of the game, is Critical Domain VS Vertical Shooter. So let's do some enemy test sprites. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a subroutine in here. And call it enemy.test. Okay, so I believe it's put image. Yeah. Underscore put image. Ten till 64, so 70 to 74. GFX sprites, comma. Oh, it's an ampersand, okay. Comma. And now, so the first two variables here, the 1010, it's a 74. That's actually going to draw on the screen from point 10 to 74. And it's actually going to draw from the graphic that we give it. On the other end of things, here we go. So this guy starts at 0, and it can't be 449, 448. So we're going to 0, 448, to 63,511. And what that should do is that should put our enemy sprite up in the corner there. Yep, there he is. Looks pretty good. Now we want the player's sprite to actually ride over everybody else's, so it's a matter of changing this. So it's Starfield, then the enemy test, then the player logic, and then flip the screen. Now it should be the right way around. Yep. Good stuff. Alright, so now we know where our player sprites are. We know where our enemy sprites are. This is the basic way of doing graphics in QB64 using SDL mostly. I'm not using any OpenGL stuff quite yet. Just to keep things simple, I'm just doing everything in 2D SDL, but I'm doing the whole Donkey Kong Country style graphics system. And so yeah, I got a lot more work to do on this, but I think I'm going to keep streaming when I actually pick up and start doing this. Maybe same bat time, same bat channel tomorrow, around 2 o'clock in the afternoon for another hour and a half or so. I'll do some more coding, and I'll share all the stuff that I've done otherwise. It seems like I don't have too many viewers quite yet, but it's the first time I'm doing a stream, so we'll see how that goes. Never know, might turn into something interesting. Might be quite a few people that are interested in watching me code a video game that we're trying to come out with. In fact, Apples and Astronauts, we are trying to come out with multiple games, and by the end of the year, I want to come out with Critical Domain Vertical Shooter. I want to come out with I was actually thinking of doing some kind of a text-based adventure with pictures, like some really old school stuff. Maybe again in the Critical Domain universe. We had another idea for a second-person video game where it's, I think, something like Pony Island or Super Hot, where the game is breaking the fourth wall and addressing you personally as the player. That would be second person. And we also want to do a racing game based in the Critical Domain universe, which I'm thinking sort of like an isometric style game like the old Neo Geo arcade games, because I already have a 2D engine built for that. But we also had another idea for a sort of F-Zero style, third person with Mode 7 style graphics, flat graphics. So we'll see how that goes, and yeah, I guess I'm going to cut this off now, and everybody stay safe, and if you enjoyed this, please leave a comment or a like or whatever. I know I don't have anybody in chat room, so nobody's really talking, but hopefully this will pick up some more. Peace.